dear foodie friends, and welcome to Kitchen Chat. I'm your host, Margaret McSweeney, and I'm so glad you're joining us today in the beautiful Viking and La Cornue showroom in the Merchandise Mart, here with my dear friend and co-host and brand ambassador to Viking, Chef J.B. Larita.
Hello, Margaret.
Well, we're going to have a fun show today. I can't wait for you to meet Rachel De Marte. She is the owner and founder of Rachel De Marte Events, and she is going to teach us how to host a fabulous home party or a house party with some great tips. So welcome to Kitchen Chat.
Thank you for having me, guys.
You're welcome. When it comes to partying, you know, there's certain things that I know. Food is the number one thing, in my opinion.
Yep.
You love food.
I love food. So in my event world, there's lots of different types of event planners, right? And with me, my niche is in food and beverage. I have a food background. I was a caterer for a long time, restaurant, all kinds of different elements. And to me, the most important component is the food and beverage.
Those who are watching out there, how do you go about hiring an event planner? What should someone who has an upcoming very special event, what should they ask?
When you go into people's homes, I run the gamut, right? So all different types of events. Specifically, we're only talking about homes right now, but it's different. People are like, it's my house. I know how to throw a party. I've done this before. Like, I know how to stage my own house. Why do I maybe need someone? And there are lots of kinds of tips and tricks as to why you might want to bring someone in, and that process of how it all unfolds, and then actually having them be able to be a guest at their own party.
Right.
Yes.
Which that is one of the most foreign concepts when having this conversation. Like, okay, do I do this? Do I hire someone? Do I not? It's that they actually can be a guest. And they also don't see, you know how when you live in your house, you see your house one way. When you bring in someone else, they can see your house in all these different arenas, the flow, the floor plan of the event, where you would put a bar.
Where you would put the garbage.
Where you would put the garbage. Exactly. I want to stick caterers in their kitchen, the heart of a party. We want the caterers to be in the background, out of the garage.
Right.
And just different ways to utilize your house the most. You want it to be functional and flow.
Well, you're right. I mean, Rachel, when someone's throwing a house party and they have their home decorated a certain way, it's for 3, 6 people living there, whatever, not for the 100 people that they're inviting over.
Exactly. And it's a different format if you're having 6 people versus 50 or 100. You know, it's a different conversation for all of those different guest counts and how we strategize to get the most bang out of the party.
Favorite moment in throwing a house party?
Guest reaction when they walk in the door. You can see it, you can feel it, and the second they come in, whatever you've staged, you know, if it's some grandiose food station like I love, or, you know, some sort of mixology or just this beautiful floral spread, or all of them together, which would be the ideal combination, you see people's eyes light up, and it's that moment, and then you watch them compliment the host over and over, and you secretly think, yes, I nailed it.
Right.
And I'm sure you've probably been to a Rachel De Marte party.
Oh, several.
So what was the most memorable moment for you?
Her parties are memorable because I think you know how to add that extra layer or two without it being too much.
Sure. Well, I mean, for me, more is more, and your more is more, right? This whole minimalist, like I am a maximalist on top of maximalist.
Me too.
Layers and textures and all of these things. And when you talk about the elements of a party, you are talking about floral and elevation and how you're presenting food and in a way that's guest friendly but looks really styled. And all of these different components.
And what about music?
Music, we haven't even gotten there yet.
I know, music.
I mean,
most people miss that mark. They think, let me hire a DJ, but it's the wrong type of music.
right. And lighting. Number one, lighting.
Right.
I can't tell you how many times I walk into people's homes, and these are lovely homes. I'm like, dimmer switches. Where are your dimmer switches? And some people just don't, for some reason, make the connection that, I mean, we can light a bunch of candles and turn all the lights off, and that works too. But my biggest hurdle is if I go into someone's home and they don't have dimmers.
And that's a really good point when you're building a home, and the people that build homes that like to party should consider that in the build.
Absolutely.
You know, it may not be what you're looking for to live in every day, but incorporate the lighting and the dimmers that you may need when you're partying. These days, you know, people are going back to throwing parties in their homes.
They are.
When when people are in the design process, they should think about having people in their kitchens.
Yes, and everyone always ends up in the kitchen at the party.
It is inevitable. Well, and that's why, part of, I keep talking about the flow and the floor plan is people want to put the alcohol and the food all in the kitchen where everybody's already going to be.
Right.
You want to pull these pieces out so that you force people through the whole home. Otherwise, everyone's pigeonholed into one area the whole time.
And is there anything, Rachel, are there like secret weapons within the home, things that are underutilized maybe, that people may already have in their pantries or their kitchens that you might incorporate into the party? I know you brought
so
some
many
things.
People say, I don't have anything. I have nothing, and we can bring anything in, of course. But I opened their pantries. There are 12 cake stands. Cake stands can be used so many different ways. Never for cake. Forget the cake.
Right.
Whether it's staging bite-sized hors d'oeuvres, whether you're adding, different elements of decor, or you're pulling pieces that really speak to the party, why that party is happening.
Right.
Whether, it's just a lovely dinner party, or maybe it's an engagement party, or a shower. It could be a million things. But these elements within their cabinets can easily be folded into the elements that present all of these fabulous things.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that a cake stand, for example, what you have right there,
yes,
that might be with baby little desserts,
right,
or appetizers.
Yeah, I would fill these with some sort of lobster salad.
Right.
And a perfect little demi-fork. And now, again, it's just a cake stand, but it gives you height and texture, and that's really the goal when you're designing a food station. Besides the food looking fabulous, that's obvious. The height and texture to it really is what hits it out of the ballpark.
Yeah, because you're visually trying to present something that may or may not ordinarily look delicious on its own, but you're giving it new life with layers and stacking it.
And is there always like a color theme? How does color play into it?
So it changes with each and every event. There's never two events that are the same. You guys know that.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends on the client and what their goal is. And then we kind of back into all of that. It's like, what is this party? Why are we having this party? What is the goal of it? And it doesn't have to be some complex answer. It can simply be, we're having a dinner party. Right. We want Italian food. Call Jamie. He's going to cook. And, ta-da. So it just depends what type of event and how we bring together the look and the feel of the party.
So what are some little things? Say people are at home or having a dinner party, and they're going to have appetizers and hors d'oeuvres out. What can you do that's kind of special? How would you present that? Like to talk about maybe naming the food. I noticed you have like a menu card over here.
So menu signage to me is a huge thing. I feel like people overlook that, especially in the home, right? Because they're pulling together things. A lot of times maybe they're DIYing the food. Maybe they have a caterer. Maybe they have a private chef. All of these are options. But there's never proper signage. And for me, there's two things that are important. One, you know what you're about to eat. And two, that you don't have to always seek out the food. The food also comes to you. So I'm a big fan of both past hors d'oeuvres, things on carts, big food stations, all of those things, because I never want the guests to have to fight to find something. So that really goes back to my whole menu signage.
Or fight to find someone that can identify what it is that they're eating. What is that? I'm not really... Right. So
which is a huge red flag.
Now, did you make that? Did you make that yourself?
So I have a couple different companies that I work with in the world of printables, all things paper, basically. So it kind of depends, again, what kind of party it is, and I always try to match the vendor with the client, the best possible fit. Different vendors have different talents, right? So they all do food signage nowadays. That wasn't so much a thing before because everyone used to do these very stuffy, formal plated dinners. And now I enjoy the trend so much more of fun food stations. You're not stuck in your seat forever.
Right. And what other fun things and fun tips? I noticed you have several things.
I think there's a resurgence of the favor in the home. To me, that has been such a thing with obviously weddings and other very formal.
Which you do incredibly well.
Thank you. I enjoy running the gamut from...
You know when you're at a De Marte wedding. You know.
There's usually some ridiculous wild card, like what surprise is going to happen.
Yeah. And what has been the biggest surprise?
It's usually some sort of celebrity performer, and it's a reveal and no one knows about it. And it just kind of, takes it to the next level.
I was looking at you on Facebook, and you had like a party on a yacht recently. Was it an 80s party?
So, yeah. So, because in January, you should have a party on a yacht in Chicago.
Perfect.
Totally normal, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So it was a 40th birthday with an 80s prom theme where every guest was required to dress up, and they all literally had some had their original prom dresses. None of them zipped in the back.
Of course, why would they?
It didn't matter. I mean, everyone was literally dressed to the nines. And we kept the boat at the well. We did not leave the dock.
Because there's icebergs.
Because there's icebergs everywhere in Chicago. And it was, of course, a night it blizzarded. So we were like, is anyone going to find the boat? Because it's on the river where the lake and the river meet, and it's just...
Oh, is that why you called me for the penguins?
Yes, I needed penguins.
You needed penguins. Joking.
So the surprise performance was Arrested Development. And this is a group of clients, so many of their friends are my clients, so I know the guests really well, which is really fun for me and really rare. And they all knew something was going to go down. And literally, you're like, Rachel, who is it? Who is it? But I can't tell.
Right.
So that was our surprise that night.
Nice. So weddings are really something you do well, but I'm looking at some things here, like what's this golf ball?
Okay, so favors in the home. That's where we started this conversation.
Yes.
I think it's really fun to have your guests leave with something, right? So parlaying the wedding conversation, hangover kits. Okay? So I'm pretty sure...
I know a friend of mine that could have used one of these yesterday.
I know her. So there's a lot of house parties that they go all night long, right?
Yeah.
So why don't you want to leave with one of these?
Oh, that's perfect.
Right?
What a great idea.
It's so wedding-centric, and I'm like, let's take it out of the wedding and put it in the house. And then
What do you put inside of them?
Oh, well, anything from Alka-Seltzer, vitamin C packets, obviously Tylenol, Advil, all the usual things that will, save you the next morning. I've actually included a mini bottle of tequila in one before.
Oh.
Hair of the dog. Hair of the dog.
Hair of the dog.
Hair of the dog. It's important.
And then if we're talking about putting something personal at each place setting, which I also think is a nice thing to do when we are doing a proper plated experience, things like custom note cards. So when they sit down, this is just a little takeaway for them to think these guys took the time to put my name on something.
Yeah.
It's just a really nice surprise and delight for the guest.
Mm-hmm. And talk to me about this golf ball.
So when you have clients that really like to golf and you're throwing a party for them, you have golf balls made with their faces on them.
Very.
That's good for some revenge therapy as well.
It's just a fun little takeaway, but also all the guests golf. This is key to this favor. You're not going to give this to a bunch of people that don't golf. So,
right.
Yeah.
So that's really smart. I love the hangover kit, know? And then having all the information at your fingertips. How long does it normally take? Say you're throwing a house party and it's a good one, How long do you need? How long does De Marte need to deliver the party?
So not as long as you would think. The biggest misconception of lead time for events is a sense of venue urgency, right? So now we're taking it out of the home. So if we put it in the home, we're not looking for a venue. We have the venue. And I have flexibility because it's your home and I'm not stuck with a space that has an event the night before and the night after. So that means I just have flexibility with vendors and different things like that. And so, a couple of months is totally sufficient,
right.
Unless we are trying to get something a little more unattainable.
Right.
And then I need to be calling on certain things sooner. But in terms of sitting down and planning it out and designing it, as long as the client is readily available, that can be a fairly quick process.
And on that note, for readily available, I think it's really important for, and I think this is why you need a wedding planner or a party or event planner, is that communication is key.
Everything.
It's everything. It's everything. And that's the thing. I love that you said it allows you, having an event planner or a party planner allows you to be at the party without having to, how many parties have I thrown myself, being the event planner, and that I'm running, sweating, getting ready. And I throw on a jacket, but people don't know that I'm totally soaking wet from fear.
Right.
But having a great event planner like yourself and getting back to the communication, it's not just the communication between you and the host, it's you and all the vendors.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's something people don't ever think about.
Right.
Like who's delivering what when, and when is it leaving, and how is it leaving, and do I have to wash it, and just all these things that you wouldn't give a second thought to because you don't know better. How would you possibly know?
How many times have you gone to a party, it's not one of our parties, but like how many times have you gone to a party and all of a sudden the chocolate fountain is walking up the driveway, and it's like you should have been
said
here.
chocolate fountain.
Yeah.
Chocolate fountain.
Yeah, is walking up the, right? Is walking up the driveway during the party.
Mapping out that timeline, that's exactly what you're saying. Of when are these vendors bringing this stuff, and do they know it has to be ready not at 7 when the party starts, but actually at 6:30? Because guests notoriously also arrive early. I don't know why. They just do.
Yeah, they do.
Right.
Yeah, right.
That still exists, but like now I see fashionably early, but it's not fashionable at all.
Right.
Like I'm not ready yet.
And there's the other thing, the big one that people don't think about that I love is the toilet situation.
Bathrooms. Bathrooms.
Any other do you have any favorite stories or your favorite? What's your favorite?
Those are going in a book one day.
Yeah.
There are definitely stories.
Have you ever had like the story where the bride or groom doesn't show up?
I've never had that happen. I've had very, very good luck with great brides and grooms. I do laugh every now and then. I get a groom that's actually the bride, and the bride's totally not the bride. It's the groom. Yeah, I've had you. And that's always an interesting dynamic because the bride's like, I don't care, and he's like, okay, let's talk about the flowers. I'm like, what's happening? Process. It's a lot of hand holding and making sure everybody's getting what they really want without getting mad at each other.
So you're known in Chicago for being, one of the premier party planners, if not the premier party planner in Chicago. You also do destination.
I love destination. The thing with me and destination is when you do this, it's like, let's say 5 days. So it's Wednesday to Sunday, let's just say. And that gives you 5 days with what I would assume are your best, most loved people in this world. And a normal wedding on a Saturday night is 6 hours. And when you look at it that way, you're like, okay, 6 hours versus 5 days. But that means 5 days of very planned, fun things to maximize your time there. But you just get so much more out of it with, the amount of time you get to spend with those people.
Right.
And what seems to be the popular destinations these days?
I mean, I adore Mexico. I just have a thing for Mexico. A lot of things in Tulum, that general area, Cabo. I just did a bunch of venue visits in Cabo, Caribbean. Most things are tropical. They've got to be an easy flight. I did a wedding a few years back in Zihuatanejo, which is a great spot in Mexico, except that there wasn't a direct flight there. Now there is. So you don't want your guests to have to take literally trains, planes, automobiles to get to the wedding. It needs to be a direct flight. Now I've done Ireland, which was magical, which is actually where this came from because they are huge golfers. And the wedding was in Ireland and they golfed every day.
Wow. Was it in a castle?
It was not a castle. It looks like I feel everything looks like a castle. But that was definitely commitment in which I thought, okay, we're maybe going to get 75 people. We got over 125. And that is, 7 hours to Ireland? So, but a direct flight.
No.
Oh, that's good. I've been eyeing these tiny little containers right next to Jamie.
So, in this whole world of food presentation, everyone is real. Yes, that is not a hat, but it could be. We can make it a hat. Feathers? Do we have feathers?
Oh, it will be.
The whole kind of disposable world has really one-upped itself, right?
Yeah,
they used to be so awful and ugly and gross, and now there's all of these adorable little things. There's footed things. I mean, what don't you want to put in here?
True that.
And it makes it really easy. This 2 ways. This is great for smaller guest counts, but really great for bigger guest counts because the cleanup on it is simple, and you're not managing all of these real vessels that are so tiny, and it allows a more functional event. So there's many reasons to do this. It's also oddly a cost savings. Unless you start buying everything bamboo and custom, then you're really not saving any money by using disposable. But they're so cute and styled now that you can make lovely stations with cute little disposable things.
Oh, it's beautiful. I am learning so much. Now, we always like to end Kitchen Chat with 3 tips. Well, in this case, not for the home chef, but for
Party tips.
Party tips for the perfect house party.
Sure. Okay, so I would say my 3: flow, floor plan. That's a huge one because it's got to make sense. Awesome food and beverage, and then if you're going to do a favor, something meaningful. So, for example, I did something recently where the favor was canned tomatoes that the client canned because she's into that, and part of the meal, the menu, we use that in the menu, so everyone left with a jar that they could then cook with.
Oh.
That's cute.
So you're threading through a piece of that person and the party you just attended for them.
And don't forget the ice.
Ice. Oh my God, at like 5 pounds per person. Right. No one wants to go out for ice ever. Just have the caterer bring the ice.
Exactly. It's the one thing, bathrooms and ice. Right?
Yeah.
And most importantly, call an event planner.
Call an event planner.
Yes, and if you guys are in the market for a great one, whether it be in Chicago or worldwide, and you want to have a great party, there's only one real person to call, and that's De Marte.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So much,
This was
Rachel,
lovely. I very much enjoyed this. We could go all day.
Absolutely. But thank you so much, and thank you, Jamie, and thank you, dear foodie friends. And make sure that you check out Rachel De Marte and her great tips and website. We'll make sure we have the links. Also, come visit Chef Jamie Larita here in the beautiful Viking and La Cornue showroom in the Merchandise Mart. And please visit me in my kitchen, kitchenchat.info. And for more recipes and inspiration, visit thevikinglife.com. And always remember to take a moment and savor the day.